Models. In this podcast, we aim to entertain, inform, and promote the hobby of scale model kit building with interviews, reviews, and news about the hobby. The Scale Model Podcast is currently recorded roughly bi-weekly and it's available where all your favorite podcasts are found, including iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. We have a Facebook page. Check us out there. Let us know if you have any comments at scalemodelpodcast@gmail.com. Or you, as I said, you can comment on the website, scalemodelpodcast.com, or on the Facebook page. We also have a Patreon page we're in the middle of setting up at patreon.com/scalemodelpodcast. The money raised will be used to help offset our web hosting costs, as well as to purchase a digital recorder and microphone, so more interviews and other contents can be created in better quality for the listeners of the podcast. My name is Stuart Clark, and I'm here, of course, with my co-host and chief bottle washer guru and everything else of Goodman Models, Anthony Goodman.
Hello.
Anthony,
How's it going, Stuart?
Not bad. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm great.
Okay, so first of all, apologies to all. We're running a week late because I got a damn cold again. It's ridiculous.
It's going around.
I'm sick of being sick, and I didn't think people wanted to hear me hack and cough. But prior to getting the cold, we had an awesome interview, which we're going to air tonight with a absolutely a master sci-fi builder. His name is Jason Eaton. That we can basically go from there. So that was.
I'd say he's a master builder just in general.
Period, yeah.
Very inspirational and
exactly. So we had a great interview with him. So we're going to be airing that a little bit later in the show.
Awesome.
So let's get right started. First of all, a shout out to our good friends in the other hemisphere with On the Bench. They had to do a repeat because their chief guru, David, he works for some sort of emergency management, and he was dealing with, they've got a lot of brush fires in Australia, and It's been very, very hot, but they've just re-released their newest episode. So check them out. Again, just check them out at On the Bench. And we hope that the weather there gets much cooler. They've been really, really hot out there in Australia. So
let's hope.
Let's hope so. All right, let's get right on to some of the latest news. As usual, a ton of news. Just when you think it's going to quiet down, it never does, I tell you. So Revell in Germany, they have re-released for the moon landing anniversary. Can you believe it's been 50 years since we stepped on the moon this year? They have the Apollo 11 Saturn V rocket. This beast, and it is a beast, is in 1/96 scale. It's going to cost you €99. It's going to be available, they say, from calendar week 13, so that would be April. This thing's huge. This thing is 180.
That's a strange scale.
Well,
I'm sorry, give us the length.
Yeah, it does. 1.1 meter, 1140 millimeters. So it's big. It's over 3 feet.
You don't see much stuff in 1/96 scale.
No. This is actually this is an older mold. So they have updated it, but 183 parts. But yeah, it's very big. I've seen one or two of these over the years, and it's a big beast. But again,
it's an interesting subject, right? Very important for flight and space exploration, and
I've seen some people actually scratch build the launch tower. Years and years ago, people would do that. I'm pretty sure you can get some aftermarket resin stuff for it too, etc. But like over 3 feet tall. This is big.
That's amazing.
This is absolutely huge.
It'll be a showstopper.
That'll be a showstopper if you can fit it into your car. Take it to the show.
It'll be poking out the back end.
Exactly. Yeah, let's hope the local constabulary doesn't get nervous with that pointing in the wrong direction, right? Yep. They think it's something else. Is that like an ICBM in his car or what? All right, Hasegawa. Pardon me. Hasegawa's got some releases for March. We're going to start with Construction Worker Set B. So this is the second set, 135th
I love
scale.
this.
Yeah, this is cool.
I love this.
So these are two construction guys and a construction lady taking a break. But they've also got, in addition to their lunch and the clipboard and all that, they've also got a vending machine. Because vending machines are very big in Japan.
Yes, they are.
Yep, they are. All sorts of lunch
everywhere.
Accessories. Yep, all that. So, one woman, the on-site supervisor, 2 men, vending machine, empty cans, guidance lights, pails, helmets, PET bottle in large and small, 3 cans, a big and a small in a crushed state. The castings look very, very good looking at these. It also
typical typical Hasegawa quality for sure.
So yeah, pretty cool. It will go nicely because Hasegawa has been releasing a lot of like construction equipment in this scale. They're starting to do that more and more. So I can definitely see this being used quite well for a diorama or something. So
I love this idea. I thought this set was really quite neat. I noticed it when it first popped up in the pre-orders. I think it's a great idea. Interesting stuff. You can really use that to make some cool dioramas or models.
Yep, and the MSRP price in Japan will be 1,400 yen. So
yeah, so it's like $15.
Okay, so there we go.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, so that's not bad at all. Moving on, this is from a very famous anime series. It was known as Macross. What was it called over here? God.
It was part of Robotech.
Robotech, that's right. It was one of the first chapter. So this is actually, they've taken a VF1 Valkyrie and they've made it into an egg plane. But they also bundled it with Miss Lin Minmay, who was one of the stars of the show. In one of her dresses, she would sing in, if I recall correctly, from way back.
Yeah.
So now I'm assuming the figure is 1/24th. I don't really know what scale the plane would be.
Well, probably non-scale, right?
Yeah,
like it's just a typical egg plane. Yeah. And there have been a few egg planes over the years, like the YF-19, the VF Valkyries, and a couple of them.
Yeah, exactly. So this is basically taken right from the series there. So yeah, that looks pretty good. 3,200 yen for that. Moving on, they're going to have a 1966 American Coupe Type 1. And I can't really quite see in the decal or in the setting what type of car it is. I'm sure someone will tell me. But it's from 1966.
A super stock, mate?
Maybe. I can't really tell. I'm terrible. Again, one of our car guys will educate us, I'm sure.
Yes, they'll correct us.
Yeah, it's also apparently going to include a resin figure of a young lady sitting on the hood to add an extra detail to your kit or use in a diorama. So again, it looks interesting. And then moving on, this is probably something you're more familiar with from Krieger. This is an anti-grav armored fighter, PF-85 Type 2, 1/20th scale.
Yes, this is the Falke, I think it's called, the Falke.
Yep.
These are really neat designs from the Machine and Krieger universe.
Okay, so it's going to include a foot long, a couple of figures.
Wow.
Yeah.
Going to be large.
Yep.
Oh, 20th scale. Yeah, that's really big.
Okay. Yep, so that looks interesting enough. Also, an F-104 Starfighter in 1/48 scale. This one was actually sold to the Taiwanese Air Force after the Vietnam War. But yeah, one thing they note about here is you can have your Starfighter in a Vietnam camouflage, because that's the way these ones were issued. So 1/48, yep, 3,800 yen again. Some more stuff from Krieger. I guess some of the power suits.
Yeah, so these are the
ground use power suits.
Yeah, Melusine. Right. These are really neat too. These are 35th scale.
Yeah.
I guess they're called power armors.
Yeah, so a couple of a couple of different ones. 60. Some of them are 61 millimeters in height. So a good size. A couple of sets. A couple of different sets there. So yeah.
Yeah, these are fun. They're neat little.
Yeah, they are.
These came out of Hobby Japan. So Ko Yokoyama, who created this sort of world. Mm-hmm. He was commissioned by Hobby Japan to do a spread, and it was kind of like his own creations. He scratch built kind of designs, but they kind of have a very World War II feel to them, but in a sci-fi universe.
Right. Okay.
And there was never an animation. There was never like a manga. There was never a story, and it's very loosely like I know that he basically created this world and then developed these vehicles. And I think there were two sides, and that it was like I'm sort of a general idea because in these sort of like photo like diorama spreads there'd be captions about the action,
right?
But it was really just these models, right? So he'd get these little glimpses, right? But it was quite interesting, and I know I did some reading about how the models were produced because there were two companies at the time putting out models. Nitto of Japan was one of them, and then I forget the other company, but they each took like a scale because they were very small companies. One company couldn't do all the stuff that he had come up with.
Right.
So they had and then from there it sort of it's obviously grown, and now we're 30 years down the road. It's still quite a popular science fiction franchise. I just recently got a Nitto release. And Nitto is a company that went out of business, I believe, a number of years ago.
Okay.
I got the what did I get? The Nut Rocker.
Sounds rather painful.
It's like an anti-gravity tank,
Okay,
basically,
cool.
like a floating tank,
Right,
and
right.
it also comes in a weird scale, 1 to 76.
Right. Okay.
So,
well, that's
bigger.
actually common in England. A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Matchbox Armor used to come in 176.
Yeah.
And Double O
Maybe
Railways 176.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes,
I was
yeah,
wondering about
yeah,
O and Double O.
Yeah. So the O is 176. HO is obviously 187th. Yeah. So you can actually use on HO on Double O track and vice versa. The width's fractionally difference. So I used to have Double O train carriages I'd bring over from England, and I could put them on my HO layout when I was a kid.
Oh wow!
So so that's kind of cool. So I'm surprised that no one's done a TV series or tried to do it.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised if one day it happens.
It just started out as like I'm pretty sure it was Hobby Japan, which is an awesome magazine, and they covered every modeling genre. They'd have articles and World War II airplanes, all that stuff, right?
Okay.
All the Gundam science fiction, and they have these little diorama like photo spreads. They're really quite cool. And Model Graphics was another magazine that I'm not sure it's around anymore, but or maybe it is. It did the same thing. So they're really neat. It's an interesting series,
and
and
it looks like something I wouldn't mind trying at some point.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's move on to Trumpeter. Their releases for March, a bunch of different ones. We start off with a BMD-3. This is an airborne infantry fighting vehicle. So this was designed in the 80s by the Russians. It's designed to be a fire support platform used by airborne and air assault units. So, they throw this off a plane with a parachute and it comes down. If it lands the right way up, you're good to go. But 30 millimeter cannon, all different types of ammunition. So you're basically, infantry fighting vehicle. This one comes with 1/35th scale. 4 different markings, lots of good decals. I believe there's a bit of photo etch. 181 millimeters in length, 90 millimeters in width. Copper cable for the tow cable. 5 sprues, 390 parts, including some photo etch. So again, if you're into Russian modern armor, that looks pretty good. Then we have
very cool.
Yeah, then we have the Nangchang Q5. It was a derivative, an aircraft that China produced based off the F-6, which was kind of a subset of the MiG-19. This entered mass production in 1969, so 60s era. 30 millimeter cannon. They later changed to 23 in the wing. So again,
looks like there's 4 different schemes.
Yep. So if you like Chinese subjects, I love the one statement here that Modeling News had. A later variant was added to carry nuclear armament. Good luck getting out before this heap got clear. That'd be a one-way mission, I think. The schemes include Chinese Air and Naval. They have also exported it to North Korea and Pakistan. Lots of decals, 90 parts, clear parts for the canopy, 227 millimeters in length, including a bit of photo etch. Now we have the USS Yorktown CV5 this is a World War II
This is something.
carrier. Yeah, this is again, you're seeing more of these. This is 1/200 scale, and that is absolutely huge. So this is over 1 meter in length.
Wow.
This is big. This is, again, you think 350 is bad. Some of these are and again, there's more and more coming out there. This was the one that was sunk at the Battle of Midway. Again, tongue in cheek from some of the reviews. So many sprues in this kit. Say goodbye to the family. Because there's 44 sprues. Hull and deck. One-piece hull, thank God.
Unbelievable.
From 2 directional slide molds. It includes some anchor chain metal parts, a little bit of copper wire, 8 pieces of photo etch frets for your handrails, radar parts, etc. Plus you have a bunch of aircraft included. Looks like 5 of each of the main types. Now I know our friends at On the Bench, because they're really big into the aircraft carriers and that. And a couple of them were saying they don't like the fact that a lot of these newer kits, the aircraft come in clear parts, come molded in clear.
Oh, is that?
They find it very, very brittle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a different type of plastic.
Yeah, there must be, because I remember when I was a kid building them, there'd just be the standard plastic, right? But
Yep.
apparently, a lot of the newer ones are coming in this clear stuff. So
I guess the idea is that you can mask off the canopy, paint your plane, and then you
your
have a little
interior,
bit
yeah,
more,
yeah,
a little bit
exactly.
more of the illusion at the, because
Yeah,
that's, things at that scale, like fighters and,
yeah,
like they often look kind of cheesy, right?
yeah. But well, again, do you remember this is 1/200th, so it's not
Yeah.
far from 1/144th. Like if you look at the
Yeah.
sprue shot of the fighters, like you're getting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, at least a dozen parts per aircraft.
Yeah. So they'll be a little crisper.
Yeah, but again, I guess there's been some complaints about it. So again,
Interesting.
you learn something new by
Yeah.
listening.
I gotta say, I like that idea.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
impressed
different.
by
It's
that.
different.
But
Yeah, but again, where the hell do you put it when
ugh,
it's done? Right? You only have one mantelpiece normally. So yeah, I don't know where you put it. All right, moving on. 1/35th scale. Again, continuing on with a lot of manufacturers are coming out with tractors and trailers and support vehicles. This is the M983. This is a tractor that's used, originally designed for the trailer-mounted Patriot missile system, but it can also
oh,
be used, for pretty well anything else. So you put a flatbed trailer on it. The box art shows it towing a bulldozer.
mhm.
You can do cranes. You can do all sorts of different things with it. So again, pile of different schemes. We are talking 23 sprues, multi-direction side molded cab, full drivetrain assembly, complete with the transmission, differential housing and suspension users. Main tires are hollow rubber. Windshields and side windows are included, a bunch of photo etch, etc. So again, for those people who want to build a diorama and do some of the support stuff, there's been a few of these lately on all different armies of the world. We've covered
Yeah.
a bunch of different ones, the Russian ones and stuff like that. So
It's a pretty cool idea.
yeah, very cool. All right, moving on. Italeri has their catalog for 2019. Now, sadly, they didn't put in the catalog a lot of stuff that's like new. So we had to go back a little bit, but they've got a couple of new things I just wanted to touch upon. They're really big, as we talked about before, into the War Thunder and World of Warplanes and stuff like that.
Yep.
So that's definitely some newer stuff coming out. World of Warships. The other one I wanted to note, where was it here? It was, let me go to their link page here. They have some of the new vehicles look very, very nice. So they're coming out with a new mold T-34. And then I did see they had a beautiful Alfa Romeo, like classic.
Yeah, that's on the cover of the.
Yeah, the cover of the catalog.
Yeah.
That looked very
Yeah.
nice. And I did see a link
Very
earlier.
cool.
Now, of course, I can't find it, but there we go. So yeah, some very cool stuff coming out from Italeri. We'll have to try and identify what's what. But yeah, all sorts of neat things. Lot in their trunk line. Here it is. The Alfa Romeo SC 2300 Monza in 1/12. It's fairly far down the page. Yeah, that looks really nice. That's a little classic. And then of course a Mercedes-Benz Gullwing in 1/16. So yeah, quite a bit of different things. They do all sorts of stuff. They even have a 1/500 scale Colosseum, as it was in Imperial Rome.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, some Da Vinci, inventions, stuff like that. So yeah, we're gonna talk about them a little bit later on, because they were also at the Nuremberg Toy Fair. So
very cool.
We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Hobby Boss, their February releases. Some of this I think we already covered, but they're coming out with the Leopard C2 Mexus. That's the Canadian main battle tank.
Yeah, very cool.
That's going to 1/35th scale. I know there's a bunch of people in Canada who love their Leopards. And
I am one of them.
They'll be very happy. 273 millimeters in length, 15 sprues, upper hull, lower hull turret, copper thread for towing cable, 630 parts, 160 individual track links. So even if you subtract the track links, that's a lot of parts. Photo etch guide included. I'm also gonna mention here at this point, there was also Oh no, we'll mention that a little bit later. But anyway, yeah. So again, because this is one of two new ones that have come out for Canadian Leopards. Because we also had the TACOM release a couple of weeks ago, so that's kind of neat. And then also from them is the Su 122-54 tank destroyer. There was only built between 55 and 57. Only 77 were built. So again, the Soviets, they love their tank destroyers. So a bunch of different schemes, couple of heavy machine guns, 287 millimeters in length, 18 sprues again, copper thread for the towing cable, 530 parts in this one, plus some photo etch. So that is
122 millimeter gun.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, that'll hurt you.
Yeah.
They were big on their
means business.
Exactly. Okay, moving on. I saw this one come up on my Facebook, on one of my Facebook groups. This is IBG Models. I've heard of them briefly, but they have a new catalog, and they have all sorts of different subjects, so particularly in 1/72nd scale, like support vehicles, trucks, cars, like military support vehicles.
That's cool. That's always neat stuff.
Yeah, some very cool things like tow trucks, dump trucks. Again, a lot in 1/72nd scale, which, and a lot of subjects that no one else really covers. They've also got a couple here, say, secret items. So there are obviously going to be some more releases as the year goes on. So, yeah, it was kind of neat. I was checking that out. They also do some 135th. They have what's called starter sets. So some Polish tanks there. Some motorcycles. Again, a lot of different support vehicles, like stuff I don't see the other manufacturers have been doing. So
I like these universal carriers.
Yeah, some neat little armored cars. So yeah, very well worth going in and having a look if you want to do a diorama there. They also do 1/700 scale ships from the war, some aircraft. Again, a lot of unusual subjects, a lot of Polish stuff, Eastern European stuff no one else seems to make.
Yeah, some of the Japanese tanks. I know they've been made before, but
the
Type 94 and so the tankette with the trailers.
So I've basically joined their Facebook groups. We're going to keep an eye and see what else they produce, because there's some definitely I can see some fans of these, especially for things like dioramas and stuff like that. So I think that'd be really neat. Okay, the Nuremberg Toy Fair took place a week or so ago. So this is a huge toy fair every year, not just model kits. But, it's board games. It's on my bucket list. Oh yeah, it's on my bucket list. One year I want to visit it.
I know that it's a tremendous, model show, and all the big releases come out there.
It is the toy fair that everyone. Yeah. And the reason they do it this early so you can get your orders in for Christmas.
Wow.
If you're a manufacturer. That's literally it. So, couple of stuff, big announcements. TACOM released a couple of kits. They've released their M46 Patton. And they also have the 1/35th scale Berg Panzer II and 3 renditions of the Panther OSV G. Now, the Berg Panzer II is based on a Leopard chassis. And again, you'll find this interesting in a few of our Canadian armor fans. Our good friends at Wheels and Wings, they had an update on their webpage on January 30th, said, "We have confirmed with the world expert on Canadian armored vehicle, Mr. Anthony Sewards, and he has confirmed that TACOM's new Berg Panzer II can be used as a base to model the Canadian Army's Taurus armored recovery vehicle."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, and that's a cool looking picture they have. Again, we've included the link to the Facebook page. So yeah, I know you saw that announcement as well, because you liked it. You liked it in Facebook. I see it there. But yeah, that is pretty cool. Again, there is several Leopard 1 kits coming up. Hobby Boss has one. Ming now has one. We've talked about that. So yeah, you may have to save your pennies, Anthony. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
It's a cool subject. I don't know. I'm not sure if I kind of like the fighter vehicles, but I'm not sure if I would if it's going to be in my list of things to do. Yeah. But the Maxis for sure, Leopard, like the.
I definitely know some people who are probably going to get all
very excited.
They'll be very excited. They'll get them all. I know
it's neat though, right? Like I always enjoy. Especially when you go like the model shows, you always see some of the same, things every year, right? And that's nothing wrong with that. But, everyone wants to take a shot at some of the popular things, but it's cool to see different stuff.
Exactly.
Right? Neat subjects and.
Yeah. Okay, continuing on, Dragon, because you can never have enough. You can never have too many Tiger tanks in 1/35th scale, as you know.
Speak of
So
the devil.
yeah, so oh yeah, Dragon. So this is a Berg Panther Tiger P, and we know we're running out of things where this was a Tiger P coated or a Berg Panzer Tiger. Only 5 of these were produced in 1942. They were issued for training and testing purposes, and only 1 saw combat. So, and then 3 of them were converted into recovery vehicles. Yeah. So
I did see a really cool.
yeah, it's a cool subject if you're a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can build it as a recovery vehicle or as the full-on tank. So yeah. So again, and there's people that are going to snap this up. People love Tigers just like I love my Spitfires, like, and the Hurricanes and stuff.
Very popular subject.
Yeah. So it'll be a popular one. Also during the show, several Tamiya models were selected by the German Scale Model Specialty Magazine Model Fan as models of the year. So one of their RCs and the M551 Sheridan, which you like.
Oh yeah, awesome. I'd like to get one of those.
Yep,
that's great.
Yep. So that was mentioned. So we have a nice picture of the Sheridan and one of the Tamiya reps and one of the editors of the magazine presenting that. And then moving on, we have some pictures. I found some pictures after the show of various booths. So Trumpeter. One big thing there is, and we should have mentioned earlier, Trumpeter's releasing a very big Titanic in 1/200 scale.
Yes,
so the
that's
RMS
right.
Titanic, and that looks very good. And again,
that's going to be a real project.
It's going to be a big kit as well.
Yeah.
So again, a bunch of pictures of some of their stuff coming out soon. Again, various combat vehicles, stuff like that. So again, always worth checking out. Yeah, they have a built up one of Titanic there, and they've also got one of the Yorktown. So that looks pretty huge. Like because they have one of the pictures shows I think it's a 1/32nd scale A6. And you see it beside the Yorktown, and it's big. You can see why.
Wow.
Yeah, and then railway guns and things like that. So all sorts, including they're also they're going to come out with a B-24D in 1/32nd scale, the Liberator.
Oh, wow.
So another big ass World War II bomber. So we see some updates there. Then we have a Tolleries booth, some various pictures there showing some of the vehicles and trucks and stuff like that. Some very nice stuff. See the Coliseum, the Pantheon, again big into the world of tanks, and the War Thunder. So a lot of interesting stuff coming out there from Italeri. Again, trying to do those basically, like the cross promotion.
Yeah, the tie-ins, video game tie-ins.
Exactly. So, okay, and then we've got a bunch of Gundam and stuff like that. So I'll let you.
Yeah, lots of Gundam releases. So there's a couple of new things coming out. Mm-hmm. The 1/144 scale Gundam Zerakiel, which is from the Gundam Build Divers side story.
Okay.
And so I think that was a story that appeared in the side story is called Gundam Build Divers Break, and it's from the Gundam Ace magazine. So it might have been a manga. And that one comes in. It transforms.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. That's pretty amazing. Modes. Yeah, that's sweet.
The GN Bull and the GN Sky. That's kind of an interesting little thing because in the original Gundam series, they had these different sort of like weapons platforms for the Gundam, and one of them was Bull and Sky, so they're doing a little bit of an homage to the original, which is cool. And that's 2,700 yen. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what this HGBD series is, maybe high grade Build Divers. That must be it.
Right.
And the next one was quite interesting. Was a master grade 1/100 scale Gundam Dynames. Mm-hmm. If I'm saying that correctly, that is from Mobile Suit Gundam 00.
Okay.
And that's coming out in March 2019. That actually looks really cool. And I sort of remember when I was in Japan, that was the series that was new and out. Okay. And I didn't really follow it. I still haven't seen it, but it's a very cool kind of design. Almost looks like a sniper.
Yeah, he's got some big ass sniper rifle there. Although it probably shoots tank shells, but
yeah, who knows?
I don't see a silencer there. I have a feeling once he lets one go down range, everyone in the neighborhood's going to know.
Yeah, That's it. You're on the business end of it.
Yeah.
So that's 4,860 yen. So that's like $50 for
That's
that
still
kind
good.
of kit.
That's
Yeah.
reasonable. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it looks like a
And
fairly big.
yeah,
It'll keep you
with
going.
with the master grade kits, they like there's an inner skeleton. They try to add
Right.
some
Right. So
a little
there's
more
the extra
detail.
detail and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that looks
There's
very
another
cool. Mm-hmm.
yeah, another master grade release, the Gundam H2 Magnum,
Mm-hmm.
and that's from regular Gundam Build Divers.
Okay.
And so that's coming out in March 2019 as well. It's 5,940 yen. And I made a little note here about the next phase.
Okay.
So I was never there, but I
Mm-hmm.
understand now that there's the Gundam Base Tokyo, and I think that is like sort of an official Bandai Gundam store.
Very cool.
And so I know they have displays, and it's called the Next Phase Gunpla. And
Okay.
Gunpla is like a portmanteau of Gundam and plastic models.
Mm-hmm.
So Gunpla. And so they often put new things on this little display section to show what's new. So
Right.
it's there's a lot of you can catch pictures of it and whatnot, and yeah, so that's where they show their newest items. And I made another note as well as there's a separate line of Bandai Gundam kits called
Mhm.
Premium Bandai or
Okay.
P Bandai.
Mm-hmm.
And Premium Bandai is these low, like limited run kind of specialty kits, like maybe a little bit more esoteric
Right.
but they're not, you can't just buy them anywhere. Like you
Okay.
can't go on Hobbylink Japan and order it. You can't go to your hobby shop and get it. They're like really, they're few in number, and it seems to be some really cool stuff has gotten a plastic version through this P Bandai, but they're often
Mhm.
quite they're 4 times the expense, and
So like very special limited edition.
yeah, really
Yeah.
hard.
Okay. Okay.
But a lot of cool stuff comes out.
Great.
I'm sure there's places to get it, but anyway, it does sound like that there was in the next phase Gunpla there was an announcement that Premium Bandai, these limited items are going to start appearing
Okay.
at Gundam Base Tokyo, and I think that's a shop that you can actually order from internationally.
Neat.
So, like for example, there's one of the maybe the most a very popular mobile suit design is the Jagan,
Okay.
and I have 2 different Jagans, but there's 8 other different variants of the
Wow.
Jagan, all released to this P Bandai, and if you want to get one, it's $100 instead of 20. So
Okay.
I'm not going to get one, but there's lots of cool different
Right.
like
Right.
Ace versions and
Well,
just different variations of it. So
as we always say, they'll, obviously they think, they have something that's going to sell.
Yep.
And that's
Yeah.
the thing. And again, the market over there, as we keep telling people, it's huge.
It's huge, yeah. And these seem to be the more like a little bit more hardcore or
Yeah.
a little bit, they do kind of these interesting subjects that are a little less popular or a little less
Yeah.
off the beaten path, and then they finally get kitted. So sometimes you're like, I'm a big fan of this thing from this show, and you'll never see it. And then all of a sudden it gets a release. So maybe it's out there somewhere. But
It kind of reminds me of some of like, Wingnut Wing stuff. They're doing some very obscure World War I stuff, but they're
Yeah.
doing very high quality, very good parts. But they'll
pay a little more.
a little bit more, but
limited
people
time.
are going to appreciate it. I think it always gets me with some of these Gundams. Looking at this Magnum, and it's like there are so many sharp little points to that. I worry about cutting my finger on the damn kits.
Yeah.
I just look at some of this, and it's like,
They can be pretty fiddly.
yeah. Well, no, I'd be more worried if I dropped it in my lap, would I stab myself?
Youch. Yeah, another exciting release coming out. Now this one's closer to my heart. Is they're doing another release of the Master Grade 1-100 S Gundam
Okay.
/ EXS Gundam. So that the S Gundam is Superior Gundam, and then there was a different version called the Extraordinary Superior Gundam. Hence the code names. Now these were from the late '80s. They were from it was a how do I say a model diorama photo story
Right.
in
Okay.
model graphics, and it was
Okay.
just awesome. So,
Right.
and I believe this was, I'm trying to think of the designer's name, was Hajime Katoki.
Okay.
He was hired to do this, and he kind of came up with these Gundam ideas. And actually, it was a story. So they had
Right.
it was a short story set in the Gundam world, and like you would have to buy the monthly issue to get the chapter.
Right.
But it had pictures with the
Yep.
model kits. And this is pre-computer graphics. It would have been all photos, and they built these models. They told the story, really interesting stuff, right? And it had a series of kits in the 80s, and they were what you would expect from kits in the 80s, but they were pretty awesome at the time.
I'm looking at some pictures of them, yeah.
Yeah, I built them, and then they got some, as they were re-releasing model kits under the high grade line and the master grade line. They were giving some love to these older kits, right, and making them a bit more truer to the proportions and the line art and whatnot.
Right.
So they're doing another version, another release. They often do that every 10 years. They're like, we've improved it. We've got better technology. It's a nicer model. It's, we've corrected something or added more gimmicks. So this kit is shares some similarity to the Deep Striker Master Grade, which was the 200th subject in the Master Grade line. And that was they had added some parts to that. Right, and so now this version of the S Gundam, which is a smaller, the mobile suit form,
right,
has some of those details added in. So this kit is 12,960 yen. So you're looking at $125 or so.
Yep.
And that's going to be coming out shortly. And we'll have some excellent engineering, I'm sure.
Yeah.
April 2019.
Yep.
And then some other stuff. There's a high grade Maganak, which I believe is from Wing Gundam.
Okay.
Coming out April 2019. That's 1,000. There's so many.
Yeah, I know. There's so many. Yeah. But that's what we say. There's a lot coming out of Japan.
They're really there's a bunch of different sort of series happening, all with their fans.
Right.
And they're really putting them out. There's a high grade 1/144th Zaku 2, the C6 or the R6 type. Now these are really cool. I love the Zak. That's the Zeon Air Commando. It was the original suit from the original show, and they just make them. They just improve the engineering and the look of it, and it's a classic design. It was sort of really awesome. And that's going to be 1,944 yen. That's coming out April 2019, and they're also going to do the Sha Custom Zak. So Sha was one of the main villain, if you will, not main characters from the first show, and then the subsequent series that are all set in that one world.
Okay.
Great character. And he was such a deadly ace pilot that he painted his Zak red.
Of course.
And he was known as the Red Comet, and people were scared when they saw that red blur go by. And it's an obvious homage to Red Baron.
Yep, exactly.
And they're going to do a kit of that.
Awesome.
Because it'll be really neat. And then one last one, an HGCE 1/144 Destiny Gundam. I'm not that familiar with that one. It's going to be a 2,376 yen. That's coming out in May 2019, and I'm sure it'll be a beautiful kit.
Based on the box art and some of the images I'm seeing, it looks pretty gorgeous. He's got like wings or something.
They really do. They really are cutting edge for.
They are, yeah.
As a lot of companies are for the engineering and that part.
Yep.
It's always neat to see what they're up to.
Exactly. Like as we tell people, it's worth trying. Try and build one. Find one you like and build one.
Yeah.
Okay. And last but not least, we got some breaking news just today. Speaking of Bandai, on their Star Wars side of things, they're releasing a 1/5000th scale Star Wars with an LED set. So it's going to be about 30 centimeters long.
The Star Destroyer.
The Star Destroyer, yeah. What did I say? Did I say Star Destroyer? Did I say something else? I don't know.
Star Wars.
Star Wars, yes. So the actual Star Destroyer from Star Wars with an LED set. So a full lit up model scheduled to go on sale in summer of 2019. So they literally just put this on the page today. They've got a short little video. We have the link there.
Hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses. So this looks pretty badass. Just with
this is going to be great. And what a classic spaceship warship design, right?
It's not huge, so you can actually put it. It's only a foot, right? It's still big, but it's not like they made it in 1/200 scale.
Yeah, and adding the LED set.
Yeah,
what a nice feature, right?
Yeah,
it's so cool to do that added aspect of lighting, and I really enjoy that. But it's hard to figure it out on your own, right?
Yep.
So it's nice that it's kind of put together for you.
Okay, and then just to close things off this section, what's hot at ScaleMates? Of course, people are talking about the Berg Panzer II, the Mark I Tamiya Spitfire. I think we mentioned this one, the ICM B-26 Invader from the Korean War in 1/48 scale. A lot of people are talking about that. Of course, the Leopard tank, the 1/48 scale Osprey, etc., etc. All sorts of good, various things in there. The 48 scale Tempest Mark V, the Leopard.
Yeah, we'll get that.
Yep, a lot of the newer kits. Some of the stuff that's been released fairly recently. So yeah, all sorts of things. The Sheridan, your Tamiya Sheridan's there.
I gotta get one of those.
Even a Revell tractor, Jults D30, 1/24th from Revell, 2019 new tool. I hadn't seen that one before.
That's neat. Yeah,
farm tractor.
Different, eh?
For the car guys, the Lancia LC2 from Italeri. Of course, the Alfa Romeo we mentioned earlier, the 8C 2300 from Monza. That's probably
1/12 scale.
Yeah, that'd be like from the 20s. That's a gorgeous looking vehicle.
Yeah, that's a neat era of the beginning of racing. And
it is, yeah, exactly. Oh, Eduard's going to be coming out with a P51D Profa pack in 1/48 scale, so they're going to be adding some parts and some goodies there. How about a 1/48 scale B1B Lancer bomber? They've actually reissued this, changed parts. I remember when this came out about 30 years ago. So yeah, so that's kind of
a big one.
That's a big beast. I may still have the old Revell catalog from the 80s when they first announced it, from way back. So that's what's happening on the ScaleMates.com section.
And Stuart, I have one other additional.
You do?
One note of interest. This one's close to my heart. Kotobukiya, which is a Japanese maker. They're re-releasing some of their Patlabor 2 kits. Okay. And these came out kind of out of left field, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. And so Patlabor's a fantastic sort of series, like a real mecha series following the exploits of this police unit where they have these police robots.
Right.
And it had a couple films, and the films are excellent. And it was always very set kind of in a really near future. So everything looks real. There's extra robots. So it's set in Japan, and they had this helicopter. It was a Japanese self-defense force army helicopter called the Hellhound. Very striking resemblance to like the Cobra and, some real world army helicopters.
Okay. Yep.
And it came out in a little series, and there was also Hannibal, which is another Japanese ground self-defense force.
I remember this. Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at some of the pictures. Yeah, I remember this.
There was two versions. There was a UN livery Hannibal, and then a self-defense force.
Yeah, I got it right here. Yep. Okay. I remember these.
And these came and went. I did manage to grab the Hellhound and the UN livery Hannibal, because these are kind of obscure suits. They're not really you might see it just in the background somewhere. Right. They weren't really really critical to the story. And they came with these beautiful 1/72 scale, very current of the time design and engineering, really awesome kits, right? And then they went away. They were gone, out of stock, and maybe you could find one on eBay and it'd be like $100, and of course it's ridiculous, right? But they are back in production.
Awesome.
And I know a lot of the Japanese companies will often do a run for a year, and then they kind of rest the molds.
Right.
And maybe it comes back 5-10 years later and they do another run. But if your chance, it's a really cool, really neat stuff. I was a huge fan of the Hannibal. I don't know why that one thing that you see for 30 seconds it piques your attention.
Yeah,
I gotta have that. Yep. That's a great idea.
Cool.
But they're back for order for the regular prices. I was looking them up there, and they are not unreasonable.
Good.
So for any Patlabor fans, let me look up the prices right now. The Yeah, it was a little series called the Real Mechanical Collection.
Okay.
And from Kotobukiya. And I think there were other things in there from different series as well under that same banner, but
Okay.
kind of obscure.
Cool.
Let's see, $38 for the Hellhound.
Okay.
So,
That's not
you
bad
know,
at all.
bad.
So very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is, see, even breaking news. That is what's going on in the news for the last 3 weeks or so. That was a lot. So we're going to pause. We're going to take a little word from our sponsor, and of course, our sponsor is no one else other than Anthony of Goodman Models, maker of the super sanding blocks, which are absolutely awesome. I was actually using them today on my Battlestar Pegasus,
Excellent.
which we'll talk about later. It's a
Yeah.
series of sanding blocks, various grits. They're absolutely awesome, wet and dry. And you're also going to be issuing some single packs in that soon. aren't you?
Yes. Actually, the first order just went out today to Wheels and Wings in Toronto, Ontario. I'm going to be offering super sanding singles. So if you want to try it, now you can just get a single block of any of the 6 grits that I'm offering, and it's going to be around $4.95. So it'll be a great price
awesome.
to try it out at,
Yeah.
see if it helps you out, which I hope it does. And then I was offering the value pack set, which is you get 6 grits all in one box, right? So you get the whole box, and in that box, I'm also offering a cleaning tool, which I just
Neat.
started doing as well. So, obviously you buy the box set, you get a bit better price, but if you want to try out a single, now that option is going to be available, and I'll have that up on through my Facebook page, or hopefully all the shops that carry them will have them as well.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I like the idea of the singles too, because as you say, you can clean them. You can clean them once they get full of plastic dust and that. But eventually, like everything, they wear out. And I know, for example, I use the 400 and 600 grit quite a bit.
Yeah, people have their favorites.
Yeah, so I can definitely see ordering some singles as some of the other ones slowly but surely wear out. So that is an awesome idea. So yeah, definitely check those out at facebook.com/Goodman Models, or of course goodmanmodels@hotmail.com, or available at fine hobby stores everywhere.
Yeah, the Wheels and Wings is going to have them shortly, and I believe Section 8 is going to be stocking them as well soon in the next hopefully in the next short while.
I know 2 great stores check out in the area. Okay, we're going to move on now. We had a great interview guest this week. We actually interviewed him last week before I got sick again, and it's Jason Eaton. And Anthony, how would you describe Jason Eaton in a couple of sentences?
Oh man, well, certainly a master modeler, and he's doing some really interesting stuff with studio scale Star Wars.
Right.
I think that's his main interest, but I know he was doing the mock, the Machine and Krieger series earlier, right. And he's also worked on Sideshow collectibles, Star Wars figures, making the masters, and he's really
cool things.
Doing some awesome stuff with 3D printing now, and he also was very involved in doing like official research into the ILM models, which is the Industrial Light and Magic, so the official George Lucas model shop back in the the original Star Wars movies. Yeah, his models are just inspiring, and he does have a really cool gallery at mystery10.com where you can see some of the things he's done. He did a really cool build of the Blade Runner blimp. Very amazing. I love it. I'm a huge fan.
Yep, and we have a link. We have a link to 3 sites we saw with his stuff. So we're going to actually play that interview now for you.
Yeah.
So here
Please
we go.
enjoy.
Yep. And our interview tonight is who we both Anthony and I call a master sci-fi modeler. That would be Jason Eaton. He's born in Annapolis, Maryland, and this bio, I got to tell you, I love it. It's from his website. To 2 loving hippie parents who nurtured his creative desires to what must have been to them an exhausting degree. At an early age, he enjoyed building models. He took a break from that to try and understand music and women. Well, a teenager and young man. Good luck with that. He eventually returned to the much easier to understand arena of scale model construction. Jason, welcome to the Scale Model Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's well, like I say, it's a pleasure. Anthony mentioned you, and we were looking through some of your stuff, and it's like,
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
wow,
Ah,
yeah. So we're just going to basically start. Anthony, why don't you start? And what first when you first found his site, which is mystery10.com, and we're going to put all this in the show notes. We've got his website, his Instagram, and even a nice interview you even made, StarWars.com. That's pretty epic.
yeah,
Go ahead,
that
Anthony.
was
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, Jason?
pretty good.
Right on. Yeah, I think we met for the first time. I'm gonna say it was back in maybe the 2006 Wonderfest. Very briefly.
Probably.
Yeah. We're just very briefly acquainted, but I'm not sure what you had out at that particular show, but there's always really huge studio scale Star Wars models, and they were just unbelievable. And yeah, so right from there, I was always consider myself a fan and kind of interested in what you were doing. And I met you a couple other times at, I think, other Wonder Fests, which is the big science fiction and figure modeling convention held down in Louisville, Kentucky every year. And and I think at one point you gave me a really cool little pin that you made. That was I have the pin here, and I often wear it to shows. It's a 1-to-1 of the number 11 X-Acto blade.
Yeah, you've got the first of the trilogy. People are really hounding me for that one, and I ran it.
It's awesome, and it says Scratch Builder across it, so it was really cool. And you were handing them out to just people you had met and chatting with, and very cool.
The longer I go to Wonderfest, the more I don't know, really sentimental I get about the show. And I just, whenever I can do something fun or funny, I jump at it. And so one year I made, I am lucky enough to have a laser cutter in my home. Nice. And I made fake awards. Well, I mean, they're awards, but they were little rocket ships that said longest elevator ride, best potted plant, biggest
cool.
fan of, liquor or whatever. And I would either hand them out to people or I would just leave them around.
I could actually win some awards of these at Wonderfest then. Awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderfest is such a great expence. And obviously, I've only been a handful of times, but
I didn't tell anybody I was doing the award thing, and people were like, "I got this." It just showed up on my table, and it said most sarcastic award or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, that's so weird." And they're like, "You son of a bitch." I was like, "Yeah." So then the next year, I thought, "Wow, I could make these little pins were starting to get popular," and I'm like, "I'm gonna make a pin and just give them away." My tax guy will love that for promotional reasons. And I totally forgot to put my website on the back of that one.
Oops.
So learning curve. So I've done it 3 years in a row. This will be the first show that I won't have one. So I'm really expecting people to be sort of let down. I've created a monster.
You have. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what first got you into modeling?
My parents, technically, or my grandfather. Okay, so this is crazy to me. When my grandmother passed away, I got the family negatives and just started scanning everything in, and I started finding pictures that I'd never seen before. One of which was, I think it was my third or fourth. I think it might have been my third birthday party. I was such a kid, not able to build models, and it was a Henkel Night Fighter, I believe. A Lindbergh kit, and I'm opening it up, looking at it wow, what is this, kind of face. And I asked my mother, I was like, what's the deal with this? And she's like, oh, your grandfather got that for you. And I was like, did I build it? And she's like, I think he built it, and you just kind of, sat in the corner or whatever. But the first, after that, I remember I was probably, let's see, where were we living? We were living, okay, so I was 5, and they bought me The Visible Woman, which I think was my mom's clever way of showing me where my younger brother was going to be coming from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I remember she painted the organs, and that's I'm assuming I learned a lot of anatomy off of that model, and I was just fascinated with the model in general. And then the Millennium Falcon, when that got released, I think my dad brought that into the house. Because when you have a kid, it's at least back then, before adults bought toys without stigma.
Yes,
it was his way to be a kid again. So he did all the grain of weight bulbs, and I remember my mom did a sort of a black oil wash over things, just instinctively making it look dirty, and I helped cut things off of sprues or helped glue things together. So that was technically my first model.
Awesome.
Cool.
Like in my head.
So this is probably a good question too to ask you. How old were you when the first Star Wars came out, and did you see it?
I was 4, and my parents went and saw it first, and then I remember, dude, this is weird. I remember seeing it, but abstractly.
Yeah.
Like I remember the white guys might have been robots, but they were bad.
Okay. Yep.
And I really, really connected with R2D2. And then a year later, the re-release, so much older and able to process things, we went again. And because I think that was the law back then, you had to see Star Wars again when it was re-released.
7, 8 times, yes.
Yeah,
I was 8, so yeah, I understand. You never forget your first time.
Yeah, well, I certainly never forget my second time, because we immediately went to the toy store afterwards, and she let me buy she bought me 4 action figures and the land speeder, and then it was like
yeah, that land speeder. I remember having that. Had the little springs on the wheel, and all that good memories. I wish I still had it. Damn it.
yeah, there was a lot of that stuff went away.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Anthony, you take the next question.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so we started kind of at the beginning of your interest in models, and I know that you're doing a lot of 3D printing, and I think you've got your own printer.
Yeah.
And where's this?
Funny. Like everybody keeps saying that I'm like blazing this trail, and I still feel so new to it. So whenever somebody starts asking me all these questions about like what should I buy or what should I do, I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where's it taking you? Where's it what is it doing for you in your model building projects that you couldn't do before, for example?
Okay.
Or
all right. Well. Yeah. First off, my hands are really jacked up. I've had 3 carpal tunnel surgeries, and I think I've got nerve damage. Literally, the doctor was like, "You've kind of used your hands up." It's like, thanks. Is there anything I can do? And he's like, "Stop being a jackass and building things nonstop." But
wow.
Yeah. So
it's not gonna happen.
Initially, I was like, all right, if I can, I used to be able to sand for 8 hours a day, which is probably what got me to where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm at this point where after an hour to an hour and a half, if the hands haven't gone numb temporarily, I lose all grip strength and I have to take a break. Mm-hmm. So I started thinking what do I do to make things easier and still build crazy? Because it's just I think a compulsion, to be honest.
You're very productive. You're getting stuff out all the time, and it looks like they're very detailed. The depths you go, especially in the studio scale stuff, it's impressive, the amount of time, for sure.
I remember, it's a weird memory, but it's totally, I think, applicable because I've talked about this to friends before. I have this memory of looking at a Christmas decoration on a tree, and it was a little, not quite a Fabergé egg, but it was this little egg, and then you looked inside and there was a little scene. And as a kid, it blew my mind that there was this world inside of this little egg thing. Mm-hmm. And so, I know I've transferred that little, thing in my brain, fascination, to building that sandcrawler that I built. I built little worlds inside of each of the holes that you look in, because I was just I want to reward myself for looking into that little access.
Yeah, hiding something for the attentive viewer.
Yeah, and it's not even about those weirdos who have the they're not weirdos, I guess, but the guys that have the mirrors that look under your model, and then you get all sweaty, oh shit, see how bad that is. Oh, and I don't know if I can swear either. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay,
we allow swearing.
Yeah, all right.
We are Canadian. We swear all the time. Yeah.
Oh, all right, cool. So I thought, okay, the laser cutter, I got that because it upped my game and let me build things that I couldn't build before, sort of armatures and bases and just lots of repetitive shapes. Mm-hmm. Cool. And then earlier, in 2006 or 7, I got one of those ultrasonic cutters because I was in Japan visiting Ko Yokoyama, who is the SF3D guy, and he had one. He's like, "This is my lightsaber," and I'm like, "I need this so bad."
Wow. Yeah.
And, that's now sort of it's become very helpful, funny enough. Whereas before it was, honestly, when I first bought it, it was just kind of a cool gimmick. And now I'm like, oh, this takes away 3D printed supports and it cuts through styrene easier, all that stuff.
So was it taking the pressure off your wrists?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that sort of where you were going with
Or,
the
like, just my
ultrasonic cutter?
hands, yes, the ultrasonic cutter takes the pressure off the wrist, and then the grip strength kind of thing. It's just
Yeah.
less force. And then the 3D printers, I used to burn through epoxy sculpts. Like, I think I went through, what do they come in, 4-pound tubs?
Right.
So I would go through
Yeah.
8 pounds a year. Like,
Wow.
Just-
I still have my little, I got the little sample size, I think, at the 2017 Wonderfest. I'm still using it.
awesome. Yeah. My usage has tapered off severely since I got the printers. But like, I thought, okay, if I can get a nice 3D printer into the house, I can sort of build larger shapes and take the pressure off, and maybe build like sort of, when you're building studio scale, a lot of the times you have to build like an under layer of something that then gets cladded with styrene. And I thought, okay, if I build this in ABS, I can weld everything together, which is always wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot less like sweat equity physically. So that led me to get the Raise 3D printer, because it has like an enclosure, so I could grow something in ABS heated and without it cracking and warping, which is awesome. And then just this past year, what was it, July, I think I got it, the Form 2, and that blew the doors open, because then I was like, I can build anything intricately and print it and not really have too much cleanup. Like, it's rivaling what objects were doing 10 years.
Do you find now that you've got the 3D printer, because I know, reading some of the articles about you in the past, one of the things you always did is you'd be sourcing, original model kits, because just like the original model makers did, to find the actual parts. Are you starting to, if you need, let's say, like the one I always remember was the original Battlestar Galactica at the top end of the launch bay or the landing bay, there was a Sherman tank suspension. I always remember seeing that, and I was so impressed that I found that. But like, are you going to be using that to try and do some of that?
Yes and no. Okay. So it's, at the moment, I'm going bananas, because this also sort of all concurrently happened with like the light bulb finally going off with Rhino. I've been trying to learn Rhino for like literally 2 years, like 3 years.
It's a steep learning curve, I hear.
Oh man. And I'm coming 20 years steeped in Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, and I'm just looking at everything differently, and you sort of have to like unlearn things. And once it clicked, I was like, oh, I get it. Okay, cool. And then I just started pumping out shapes and combining them and making, like, the Y-Wing was really the first thing that I made, like, start to finish. Okay. And I look at it and I'm like, that's bananas that I did that so quickly. And by the time I started literally at the front, and by the time I got to the back, I went back to the front and redid the front, because I had learned so much more. Cool. And now, like, I would probably totally do it differently, like, 4 or 5 months down the road from where I was.
The Y-Wing looks absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. I'm just so into that. And the 3D printer, the Form, has allowed me to build all of those sketchbook designs, which I knew I could do, like, scratch building physically the old-fashioned way, but I never would have devoted the time necessarily, because I was building, I was busy building the ILM built stuff,
Right.
So it's letting me kind of do both at the same time. So I'm still going to be using donor parts, but you're right. Like, if I need like 10 or 15 of like something from a C-Lab, if it makes sense to have it molded and cast, but like some of the really small fiddly bits I know are harder to cast. I'm just going to grow them and use that. And I know that sort of it'll offend the purists, but what are you going to do?
You know what? In the end, we always talk about you build for you, not for someone else.
My God.
Because I
basically fun.
Like I look at the Star Wars, the article on StarWars.com, and you talk about here the Skyhopper, original kit parts. Was up to $2,000. That's like wow, that is a labor of love, and it looks.
That was an amazing, Stuart. Sorry to interrupt. That was quite an amazing build. I really spent a lot of time looking at that when you brought it down. Was that 2016, Jason?
I believe so. I have to mention though that was not done in a vacuum. like I'm really really always like cognizant of how many other people like it took to make that
article,
yeah. And I made sure, like, when I was interviewed by StarWars.com, I was like, you have to mention Edmonton and Craig Underwood,
and
because those guys are brilliant, and I never would have been able to build this.
And that's what's, that's what we like, whether it's an IPMS group or, with the internet now, people can help other people with the hobby. Here's one question, because there may be some people that don't build sci-fi, and they've heard us, all three of us mention studio scale. What exactly is studio scale?
Okay, studio scale is any filming miniature, whether it's a ship or a house or anything, any filming miniature that was built for television or film, that is you replicate it in the exact same scale. So studio scale is a fluid scale. You're just literally recreating what was made for that show.
Okay.
And there are multiple factions, like any other hobby. There's the hardliners, who I very much appreciate and admire, who have to build it exactly like the original. Wonkiness, that part fell off, and like, by God, I've knocked it off my model, and there's a thumbprint, and I'm going to put the thumbprint there. Wow. And then there's and it's like to me, that's almost like art forgery, like in a good way. Like it's just incredible, like the vision that you have to make it like that. I'm much more loosey-goosey with that kind of stuff. I try to get like, I would like every single part to be exactly perfect and accurate and right, but if it's glued on crooked, I'm straightening it out on mine. And if it's not known, I know a guy that's been building this one model for like 15 years, and he'll never finish because he can't ID this one piece. And I'm like, it might not be a model kit part, guy.
Dude,
slap something on with some glue and call her done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like, especially color, like I'll paint it what I think. I'll either paint it for myself to be happy or for my client to be happy. So I just finished that Darth Vader TIE Fighter, and I said, look, it was painted Stormy Sea Gray. It's this weird dark blue gray. I can absolutely paint it that color if you want, but in your house, it's going to look really, really dark. If you're putting super bright stage lights on it, it'll look great. But I would recommend going 20% lighter.
Right. I saw you mention that on your FAQ. It was a nice little summary. It's too dark will be on my gravestone if the internet has anything to say about it.
You know, that is from, I painted an escape pod, brought it to Wonderfest, and Lauren Peterson, who built and painted the original, looks at it and he goes, "That's too dark." All my friends were like, "Oh!"
Hey, I did it myself. It's like, it works for me.
Oh my God. And then it became a joke. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Okay. Is there a particular moment that really stands out as most memorable during your build career so far?
That first time going to the Lucasfilm archives, where like you're standing there amidst everything real, and that little I was there as a consultant for Master Replicas, which was a company that made high-end collectibles, and I was like a fact-finding mission to like study at the time one of the Y-wings. And
gosh darn, and they pay you for it too. My goodness.
Yeah. I think I flew myself out the first time, but after that they started paying for my plane ticket, and I was like, this is amazing. Sweet. But cool. Like you're standing there professionally, stone faced, but inside it's like you're a
4-year-old boy.
And the Beatles have just landed at the airport, and you're crying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Making the sounds.
Yeah. It was. That was just one of those moments where I'm looking around like, how did this happen? Like, this isn't real. Like, this can't be real. And then just recently, like, I've come to realize that a lot of those guys that built those models, like, I'm friends with now, legitimately just like, buddies with, and it happened very organically and slowly. And it's very weird, like,
nice
to think about it, like outside of my body.
Yeah.
But they're just really nice guys.
Awesome.
Incredible.
It's
Absolutely
really cool.
Now let's take it the other way. Is there a time that you like a really challenging time, like you thought a build had almost defeated you, and you're ready to bend the thing?
Oh God, yeah. Lately, there was a shift in. It's all material based angst for me. There was a shift in Paint. I don't know when it happened, but Plasticoat T235 Sandable Primer Gray changed its formula and broke my heart.
That's the worst.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I was talking to John Goodson from ILM, and he said, like, oh my God, T235, they screwed us. And he's like, apparently, because, he had the clout, he went to the company and was like, what is happening? And he told me suggested me to use something else. But it really messed with my builds for like months because it wouldn't stick to resin.
Oh, wow.
And and it's very humbling, to think like, I got this down, I know exactly what to do, and then it's just not working. And then you go online and say, hey, like, are you guys encountering this? And getting, like, well, did you wash it? Like, dude, come on.
We did all the obvious stuff. Did you turn it off and on? I get that in the computer.
Right. Ask it. It's a legitimate question, but I'm like, come on, guys. And then that was fixed and solved or whatever. And then I guess like somebody started using too much mold release or something, and I had a couple models that paint again wouldn't stick to, and again I feel like that like noob who's like, I don't know what I'm doing, what the hell's going on, like, and now my hands being what they are, now I have to strip this model, and that's gonna kill my hand, like, oh my God. So that was a super bummer. And then that sort of was like the moment where I was like, I'm not buying garage resin kits anymore. I'm just going to scratch build and do this 3D printing stuff.
Right.
Like, I can't put myself through that. Like, it's a younger man's game maybe, or somebody with better hands, but I can't, which just sucks. But,
well, it's funny though. I think if you talk to people who've been in the hobby for a while, like I'm finding myself as I get older, I'm really, my tastes are changing. And for example, I'm fighting my way through an old 1/72nd scale F-18 Hornet, and those damn decals, the stencils are so tiny. And I'm at the point where I think I'm going to go back to 1/48 for a while, for the same reason. Yeah. Because, I'm not getting older. They're making the decals smaller. I'm convinced.
Right.
Just like the pill bottles, right? That's it.
I just got new glasses, and I had them up the bifocal another 100% or whatever.
Yeah,
however
that's going to be next for me.
Yeah, I was joking with my friend that I was like, I'm gonna look at all my models that I've built in the past year and be horrified. Like, oh my God, look at all that cat hair or whatever.
My wife's already laughing when I do, because the last time we went, exactly, she said probably the next time progressives are bifocals. I was like, damn it.
Yeah, I've been wearing those for a while. It's not that bad. No. You're gonna walk around like the ground is a funhouse mirror for like the first week.
Yeah, basically. Well, I pretty well use a magnifier now when I'm building now. But yeah, it is funny. You notice the difference where I used to build, when I was a kid, I built just, I won't say hundreds, but dozens of these little tiny Navy aircraft. But, we for example, we've got an older gentleman in our club, and he loves building 1/144th stuff, aircraft. And he's like, it's got to be
brutally small.
Yeah, he's got to be 70. And he builds that. He builds one 700 ship with the photo etch. It's like, man, Doug, are you nuts?
Glutton for punishment.
Yeah, but you know what? He turns them out, and they're always fantastic. They're always. He's always got something on
He's
at our meetings.
He's a prolific builder.
Yeah, he is.
Prolific builder.
He is.
It's like those Wingnut Wings kits with all the rigging. Yeah. I look at that and I'm like, holy crap!
Exactly. What? We've talked about that before. They look absolutely gorgeous. We've got people building them, but I look at that and I look at the rigging and I went, not going to happen, unless I get like a monoplane with very simple. And I know, people, there is some very good stuff now with Easy Line and stuff like that. But yeah, part of it's like you want to honor the kit. You don't want to screw it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. What is it? The Eindecker? There was one where I was like, I could handle that one.
Exactly. Yeah. That one, if I saw somewhere for a good deal, possibly. But they're just,
they're gorgeous kits.
They're absolutely
so nice.
Gorgeous. And of course, now they've got the Monster Link coming out and some of the other stuff. And it's just unbelievable. Again, where the heck do you put these monster kits?
Yeah. So, well, that's another thing. Like, everybody assumes that I have this incredible museum in my home with everything I've ever built, and I've got like 2 models because like most of them, I'm in a very nice position now. I used to have to, not have to, but I used to take on commissions so that I could then buy more supplies or kits or tools or whatever. The hobby's always funded itself, but I'm very fortunate now to be in a position where I just build whatever I want, and then somebody will come calling and go like, "Hey, I want that. How much?" And then I name some like price that actually pays me for my work.
Carefully considered price.
And not just taking
yeah.
$2 an hour. Yeah, like you usually do.
No, exactly. And there's people out there that will buy it. Yeah. Yeah, one of our previous.
I paid myself $8 an hour this time. That's incredible.
That's not bad. One of our previous guests, John Bios, he does exactly the same thing. He throws them up on eBay after a while, and people buy them. And he's been doing that for ages. And he, I don't know how much he charges in that, but he says, it helps pay for the next kits, and and that's the way you can do it. Okay, Anthony, do you have any other questions before we get to our final two?
I just was thinking of something. I know that you were interested in the SF3D stuff. It sounds like you did that stuff earlier on. Jason?
I discovered it in 98 or 99, and was fascinated by it. And then, of course, it's all in Japanese. The internet's still kind of new, and there's not that much around. And I think it was Yahoo message group that was the SF3D hotspot, and that's where I formed. I'm actually still friends with some of those guys. Cool. And then it snowballed, and by 2003, a couple friends and I really made a concerted effort to try. Our goal was to make a garage kit and sell it at Wonderfest in Japan.
Right.
And we had a couple friends in Japan that facilitated that, and it was really, really gratifying. And then we started doing it every, Wonderfest is twice a year over there. So every 6 months we would try to, get somebody from the group to create a limited run kit. We'd ship them over there. Never made any money, usually lost money.
Yeah. Just the experience of it.
And we honestly, we just wanted to represent, internationally. And then apparently some of the Japanese guys were really whoa, wow, check that out. So that was cool. And then
were they original designs that fit into the world of SF3D?
No.
Or were they actual?
Always, just like Studio Scale, we were always recreating exactly what Ko made for, in the old Hobby Japans from the 80s. Yeah, and then by 2006, I went over there in 2006, 8 and 9 with my wife, and it was a vacation / Wonderfest event.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was there in 08.
Nice.
07, 08. I lived there for a year, so maybe we went to the same. I think I went to the summer Wonderfest.
That was before it was in.
It was in the Big Site.
Yeah, it was in Big Site, not
Big Site.
Yeah, the upside down pyramid guys. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would go to Tokyo Hands and spend $1,000 buying just stuff. I literally, I brought 2 suitcases, one inside another, and on the way back, there was an entire suitcase filled with nothing but spruce. I threw all the boxes away. All the
customs guys must have absolutely loved you. Anything to declare, sir?
Yeah. The guy opened it at customs, and the smell of resin hit him like gasoline.
Yeah, great.
And he just smiled. I think he said Wonderfest, and I was like, yeah.
Oh, that's good. At least he knew.
He knew. He looked at me and he's like, model guy.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't realize it was that big. I
don't think it is. I think that guy just happened to know what it was.
Thank God. Yeah. Thank God, because all of a sudden you got a attack response team there.
I know, right?
Hi, why don't you come over here?
Yeah, put about 8 or 9 old school resin formula garage, the kerosene smelly stuff.
Great.
Put that buttery tan.
Yep.
Put a bunch of that in a suitcase and stick it in the sun, and then go through customs.
Wow. Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
Right.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah,
absolutely
cool.
Fascinating.
So I was going to ask you. Sorry, another follow-up question was that. Are you interested in any sort of the real world subjects too, or are you just kind of focused on Star Wars and other science fiction stuff?
In the mid 90s, I was really obsessed with the ME262, and that sort of opened up with a lot of the German paper projects.
Oh, the Luft 46 stuff, yeah.
Crazy, like the Luft 46. Yeah, I thought that stuff was
Horton
Yeah, and the HO, the Horton 229 is one of my favorites. It just because it looks like a spaceship. I mean, I know why.
It sure does. Yeah.
And I, being where I was at the time, very close to the Air and Space Museum,
nice.
I do these things where I don't realize that I'm being maybe inappropriate. It's apparently my weird extroversion, but I just call the Air and Space Museum out of the blue one day in '96, and I say, "Hi, can I talk to the curator of your ME262?" And there's a pause, and then somebody else answers, and they're like, "How can I help you?" I said, I'm building a fiberglass 1/18 scale ME262. It was the high MPM kit from like the Czech Republic or something.
Oh yeah.
It was a monster evil kit to build when you're still really green. But I was like, I'm building its 1/18 scale. There's not a lot of reference online. I have a couple books, but I want to know about like the fuse box looking dealies under the wings and stuff. And the guy goes, oh, how old are you? And I was like 25 or however old I was at the time. And he's like, all right, well, come on down Friday at 9 a.m. and we can walk around it. You can take
cool.
pictures. So an hour before the museum opened, I rolled up with my brother, this young punk kid, and the security guard's like, what? It's like, I'm here for blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, I'm on the list or something. And then he like looks and he's like, oh, and he lets me in. And we walked around the ME262 for an hour, and he like opened everything except the canopy up. And he said, it's the radium paint. It's like a health hazard because it's sort of flaking off. We dust. He goes, we vacuum these once a month with a hazmat, whatever. But he opened up the bomb or the gun hatches in the front, and it was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
and then after that, I went to the Garber facility in Silver Hill, which is where their like dry dock is, or just storage, long-term storage, and that was before the Udvar Hazy opened. So I got like the Close Encounters mothership was literally just sitting in a corner, dusty, like you could walk up and touch it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's where I saw the 229 and the Kika. And I think the Enola Gay was there in pieces at the time, but that was a mind-blowing experience.
Wowza.
Yeah, it's an amazing museum. I've been down there once or twice in my life. Just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, the Look 46 stuffs, and this is what I love about sci-fi too. And, I even tell people like, you can even do it with present day stuff. I've got a F-117. It's an old Revell kit I got at the thrift store. It's 1/48th, but you know what? I'm going to throw it in RAF markings because there was a time they were considering selling it to the RAF. So you do, you do a what if. Whatever works. Yeah. Exactly.
Somebody had taken I think it might have been a 2001 Orion and made it a FedEx delivery vehicle.
And
I was like, oh my God, I love this.
I also saw one lately. I don't know if it was at a recent show or just something I saw on Pinterest, but someone took that Orion and threw it on a 747, just like the space shuttle. Made like a ferry.
Nice.
Yeah. They put the Orion on, and that was kind of cool as well. So yeah, this is the great thing about sci-fi. You can do whatever, and the rivet counters, they can screw off. Okay. So let's this is something I always ask these next two questions to all my guests. What are your thoughts about the future of the hobby?
Gosh. I hope I'm wrong, but it seems like it's contracting. However, I like to think that people will at some point wake up and realize they need to do something analog with their hands to stave off, senility, and hopefully get engaged in something like that. I think because I was nervous that we were aging out of it, but I see younger people showing up now. So I don't know. I mean, I had said to my wife at one point, I'm like, well, we could always just move to Japan where it's big, of course, but like all the hobby shops in Baltimore, there were like 7, and some of them were really good, all closed over the past 15 years. But bummer. There is a great, amazing hobby shop that just sort of sprung out of nowhere, and it caters more towards the Warhammer type guys, but he just started carrying Tamiya, and he's got like the whole AK line,
and I think that's where the future is going to be. They're going to have, the physical stores are going to have to become an experience. And as you said, the Far East, it's just growing. Like people who don't take Gundams and stuff like that seriously, they do that at if they're in the business, they do that at their peril. Because it is just absolutely huge, and I agree. We see some younger people, but I think also there's a lot of just like all of us. We did it when we were kids. Then Girls and Cars came around, and now we're getting back into it. Like we're our local chapter. I think we're at a huge number now. I think we're almost 45, and I know the Hamilton chapter is like 80, where they do Heritage Con every year. So I still think it's I still think it's growing. But I agree with you what you're saying. You need to do something that's analog. I work in the digital world 9 to 5, and I like working with my hands.
and I think the subject matter is going to pivot, and I think that when you're so invested in your subject matter, you think the world's ending. I've talked about this a lot with a couple of friends, and we all kind of agree. It's like we feel like Star Wars, like model the garage industry, especially, will at some point sort of chill. It'll cool down because you're catering to guys that are in the next 10 years or less are going to start thinking, oh my God, I have to retire. I should stop spending billions of dollars on this stuff. And somebody was like disagreeing, and I'm like, all right, well, how many Laurel and Hardy conventions do you see advertised? Like at some point we're all going to die. Like literally it's just an inevitability. However, there's all these video game properties that I don't understand, but I'm seeing everybody building like props, ships from
huge ships and tanks, and all the manufacturers.
Like somebody's like, that's from this game that's like online, and I'm like, okay, like it looks neat, but I don't know.
I think it's a smart idea because it's getting. People are playing, especially some of the World War II subjects, both ships, tanks, and planes. They're playing these video games, and it might get them interested. And and again, I agree. I think, in the, let's say 40 years ago, it was mostly aircraft and tanks. World War II mostly. And I think as things expanded, now we're seeing more sci-fi. Cars, of course, are still around. But I think it's definitely pivoting. We're seeing that in Japan, where, like I said, the sci-fi, the Gundam stuff, just head and shoulders. Absolute head and shoulders above. It's the gorilla in the room, basically. And
that's amazing.
I think definitely Europe's realized that, and I think North America's starting to too. So, and as you say, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere. I just think it's going to change on us.
No, good.
It's just not a bad thing.
Nope, exactly.
It's just diversify.
That's how the world works.
Exactly. Okay, and the question we always ask to finish things up is, what's on your bench currently?
Right now, it's always like 30 things, right? Nobody just has one thing. But the main thing on my bench right now is the quote studio scale. I'm just building it the same size as the prop, but it's different. So the Steve Gawley / Joe Johnson TIE Fighter. So Steve Gawley was hired by ILM to make all of these blueprints initially before he transitioned to model maker, and the blueprints are different looking than what was built. Right. And Joe Johnson's at some point in the design, Joe sketched it, and I'm building that version. So it's another 3D print, a lot like the Y-Wing.
Yeah, that's, I think you got a couple of pictures of it. Your latest pictures on Instagram there. Yeah.
I'm also building an escape pod that is probably like on hold until like April. And a true studio scale Y-Wing from a resin kit.
Very cool.
That somebody wants, and I'm like, I'll build it for you.
Very cool. Well, one thing, and again, I don't do anything to the level that you do, but I am very impressed with the Bandai Star Wars stuff. I built a TIE Interceptor not long ago, and I was very impressed.
Yeah, I want to build all the R2 variants because they're just like, they're like candy.
That's neat. Has there been any progress on your? I remember you were mentioning. We were chatting at one point. You were mentioning that idea of taking the Star Wars toy.
Oh my God!
And turning it into a proper-looking, real-world, in-world model. Yes. And I thought that was an awesome idea. I loved all those goofy little toys too. And then,
the mini rig, the PD
mini rig.
Yeah, that is back. That is back on the bench. I forgot about that. That poor thing. Awesome. Like it's been like 4 or 5 years that I've been like I did a big burst on it, and then I was like, something else that's shiny, and it just went on the shelf. But it is back, and of course, like I just literally measured everything I had built and created it digitally, so I can then build. Like I don't have an interior, so I've got the exterior built and done. Well, not quite done, but I want to make the bulkheads on the inside, and I think I'm just gonna print them on the FDM printer and then skin them because it'll be faster, which is weird, but that's how it's gonna work.
It'll save your hands, so
save my hands.
It's a really interesting project, Stuart. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but I don't know if you've even posted a lot on that, Jason.
I might not have. Yeah. Okay. So. At some point, Kenner decided that they needed to make a cheaper price point vehicle. Okay. So they came out with these little things they called mini rigs, and they were like 1-man or 2-man like ships or fighters or whatever,
Okay.
and they were cheap because they were like a third of the size of the X-wing, and they invented them. They just made them up, and the idea was they were just off screen, like
Yeah, okay, I remember these.
Hammerhead's hand.
I just looked them up.
And it
I just looked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember these.
Yeah,
now.
they're really cool.
Yeah.
So my favorite was the Goofy PDT-8, and it's just a little pod that transports droids, apparently, which I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but I love the TOL like cube thing.
Yeah,
So
remember
I
these.
thought, okay, well, I love how Kenner would get photographs from ILM and translate that into a toy. They like toyify it. So I thought, what if I took a toy that has no miniature and like ILMify it? So I picked that, and it's 1/6 scale, so I can really trick it out.
Oh wow,
It
yeah, it's
has
huge.
Yeah, and it has a digital, like it's an old iPod Touch shuffle thing, like a little mini thing, and I made a little video like with audio and visuals, and it's just like oscilloscopes that I colored
Awesome.
and like swirls and stuff. So it'll have a little screen. It's over the top. It's ridiculous, but it's just fun.
I'd forgotten about
Very
these.
cool.
I'd forgotten about these, but I remember.
Did you
as soon as
recognize those?
I recognize
Yeah.
them now. I had
I'm
to
pretty
look it
sure I
up.
play with them too.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
them, and I remember thinking, but they weren't on the screen. What's with that thing? It's like
Yeah.
even back then, the cynical side of me, yeah, they're trying to make more money.
See, I love them. I always thought,
No,
like,
they're-
oh, I
they
missed,
were
I
cool.
missed it.
Yeah,
Where
they were
where
cool.
is it? Looking
Yeah.
for them. Where is that? I
Yeah.
missed it.
No, because I just
Yeah.
remember some really dorky ones, like the MTV7, the multi-terrain vehicle. This one looks so stupid. It looks like a steamroller. Like it's got two,
Oh yeah.
See,
Yeah,
with
and
me,
it,
I was
like-
always the sort of guy that was going, okay, how do they do that? Like I really loved when the Star Trek blueprints came out because it all kind of made sense from the sets and that, but like when they did certain things, you go, there's no way that would fit in there. How would that work? I'm not a rivet counter, but I'm the engineering rivet counter. Like, what do you mean it says deck 98? You can't have 98 decks on a starship.
I made some like electric future car like salt flat racer looking thing, and somebody said, well, there's no drivetrain, and I was like, the magnetic engine or magnetic motors in the wheel wells.
Yeah, see, I'd be the SOB saying, but there's no drivetrain. So yeah, exactly.
And I made it up on the spot because I'm like,
Awesome.
I forgot a drivetrain.
Right, yeah, no, exactly.
Oops.
No, I'm the anal guy
I'm
that
not a
would say,
car
you
guy,
forgot
man.
a drivetrain. Yeah, how does that thing exactly work? But yeah, no, I do remember these.
Always
now.
explain it away in the science fiction
Exactly.
realm.
That's the easy thing about it. Exactly. Okay, well, Jason, it has been a hell of a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yep, no, our pleasure. If you're ever around in this area of the world, you have to let us know. We'd love to get you down here. If you're ever up in Hamilton, the Canadian Warplane Museum is only an hour away. We have our big show coming up, Heritage Con coming soon. That's pretty cool. If you ever get a chance to come up to Hamilton, Ontario, just about 45 minutes from Niagara Falls. So and then London, where Anthony are on I are about an hour and a bit. We're halfway between Toronto and Detroit. So,
Cool.
But yes,
I've been to Toronto, and I think I've also been to Ontario.
so there you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
I'll have to sample all the poutine.
Oh, wonderful poutine up here! Yeah, wonderful poutine. We actually have a place called Smokes where you can get all sorts. They do a for Thanksgiving. They do a Thanksgiving poutine, so it's everything in the meal. So you got your fries, your gravy, your cheese, some turkey, some vegetables in there. It's after a night of drinking. Yeah, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Back when I was a young man, it was good after a night of shall we say a few adult beverages.
Something to soak up all of the sins of the evening.
Yes, exactly. Now I stay away from the beer and I just drink good scotch. I see just like you do.
Yep.
So I was admiring some of the bottles in on display in your liquor cabinet. So
I've been very fortunate to get some of that stuff over the years.
Good.
Yeah.
So as I said, So we're going to put up some links in the show notes. So your website's at mystery10.com. You've also got your Instagram. And as I said, we really appreciate you joining us today on the Scale Model Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
All right. And All right, wasn't that a great interview? We really enjoyed having him on the podcast.
What an interesting guy.
Yep, we're definitely going to have him back. So, moving on, what's on the bench? For me, again, being sick, I haven't got a lot of building done. If you go to my website, blackfire.ca, I did put up a brief little build update. The Hasegawa, the very old dog, as I call it now, the Hornet, the decaling's complete, or at least the decaling I'm going to do on it. The decaling was a real mix. The larger stuff went on fine, but some of the smaller stuff, like I wasn't going to put all the stenciling on, but some of it just literally fell apart. So I was not happy. So I'm working on the final things like the landing gear and that. I think now I just have to put a satin coat and then I'm going to call it done.
Excellent.
Yeah, just to get it out of the way. The Shaitarn, I've got the gun tractor and the 88th gun glued to it. I've got to do the final positioning of the Gundam, and I'll get that super glued on. And then I'm going to decide if I'm going to do anything else. Like I said, find some equipment, like scattered equipment as these guys are all running away.
Yeah, why not?
Stuff like that. So we'll see how that does. And then more importantly, I've actually started work on my IPMS London one-year build, and that's the Battlestar Pegasus.
Nice.
14105. It's pretty huge compared to Galactica. So I've started priming the flight pods. I'm doing build. I'll be doing build updates on my website and on the IPMS London forum. It's a big kit. So like one of the things today, for example, I worked on just priming the flight pods, and I'm going to do a lot of priming and painting in sections here because this is such a big kit. And my air compressor is a very old air compressor. So after about 15 minutes, it starts getting a bit warm.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that's fine. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it in parts. But again, Mobius, that, you know, beautiful kits to put together. So.
Oh, really? Yeah, I was going to ask you, how's the engineering for?
Engineering's great. So this one, the flight pods include some decals to replicate the inside. You can buy a photo etch set, but I'm not going to bother. So yeah, I'm going to do those first, get the decals in, then get those masked, and then they're actually the very last thing to go on the model. So what my plan is, I'm going to assemble the rest of it. Get it primed and painted. I'll have the flight pods primed and painted, and then do the final assembly and weathering.
Yeah,
so,
nice.
Yep, work on that. So what have you got on your?
Oh, I've been really ramping up on my 1/35th scale Malaysian infantry fighting vehicle. I've got decals on it, so the UN letters are plastered on. Actually, I noticed with this kit they didn't give you enough of the decals to complete it as per the reference photos I found. So. One of our local members in the IPMS club, Nick Manzara, he has graciously given me a decal sheet from his Grizzly in UN colors that he didn't need. So I'm going to scavenge some of those to kind of finish it off, and it's looking good. I'm going to try and do some pin washing with. I got some Vallejo model wash. I'm going to use that, and then I'm going to do some oils for some other. Some washes and a little bit of weathering, and then hopefully some pigments.
Awesome. You know what? That's what's always nice about having the community with IPMS and that.
Absolutely.
You know, there's always people you can look at. You know, and I've had that too when I had the missing commander's hatch from my 135th Panther. Another guy in the club, you know, came in and graciously gave it to me. So
it's wonderful, right?
Shout out to those people. So
yeah, thank you, Nick.
Yes. So you have the site. You have the tip of the week or the site of the week.
Yes, Zimmerit.moe.
What
this is a really
what country I'm not is really MOE? I don't know.
I don't know, but I love this guy's site. Yeah. I find it I don't find that much interesting stuff on the internet. Sometimes there are definitely good things and I'm happy it's there, but sometimes I find myself I'm just, oh man, I've wasted time just kind of down the rabbit hole. But this guy does a lot of writing about 1980s sort of Japanese model anime culture. So he's got a lot of cool Kit Bash articles and articles about garage kits, some other stuff, fan-made animation, weird comics, but a lot of 80s Japanese pop culture, which I love, right? Now that I was mentioning to you about the Maschinen Krieger kits and then Nitto producing them and Hasegawa's producing them. He had an article talking all about the origin of the Maschinen Krieger universe, and that's actually where I picked up that stuff from. And he often picks up on like a creator or a model builder and kind of talks about some of their stuff. And Zimmerit, it's called Zimmerit because they're there was a point when, sort of in the late 80s, where there was sort of a lot of garage kit designs from Gundam. They weren't really official, but they started to try and do them up like real world, like World War II style. There'd be giant mecha robots with Zimmerin on them.
Right.
And probably not practical or realistic, but it looked awesome, right? Like these were starting to pop up in the model mags, Hobby Japan and Model Graphics coming to mind. And so this guy is writing about that period in the model world now, and it's a really interesting look back into some of the companies that are producing this stuff that were just sort of flash in the pans and
Awesome.
and are long gone. So I find there's some really interesting reason there. I love it. So
Cool.
keep putting out the articles.
Very good, very good. So yeah, definitely check that out. So we are basically done. You actually got a show and a half because we weren't here for 3 weeks.
Wow.
So we actually are going to try and get a recording in next Sunday for next week to bring us back on the schedule. Because we like to do it on the alternate weeks from our good friends in Australia on the bench. They do a podcast and we do. So that way, no matter what, most weeks you get at least one of us. So a shout out to David and Ian and the rest of the gang down there. Check them out as well. So don't forget to subscribe. Let us know if you have any comments or suggestions. You can reach us at scalemodel.podcast@gmail.com. We love hearing about new things, particularly new products. If you're a manufacturer, please reach out. We'd love to hear about some of the stuff happening because as both of us have admitted, we're not experts on everything.
That's true.
This is true. So yes, you can find us where all your favorite podcasts are found. We have a Facebook page. We love hearing feedback from people. I really enjoy getting the feedback. I appreciate that. And as I said before, we also do extra video content on the YouTube channel. There's also a Patreon page at patreon.com/ScaleModelPodcast. We're looking forward to going to the Hamilton show, HeritageCom, only a couple of weeks away, month and a half. So that's going to be cool. So yeah, so definitely let us know. So that is it. Any parting words, Anthony?
Happy modeling, and we'll see you next time.
All right. So for the Scale Model Podcast, I'm Stuart Clark.
It's Anthony Goodman.
Thank you, and be well.